Segment 2, Gold and Black Live, back with Cuonzo Martin. Again, we appreciate his time. Thanks to Triple X and State Farm agent Trent Johnson as well. All right, Purdue does have a football game tomorrow. The Boilermakers take on Minnesota in a 3:30 start. You've had a chance, we were talking offline, you made me smart to remind me that you were around Ryan Walters at Missouri for a time. Just talk about the person that Ryan is. It's a challenge. You know, the season hasn't gone as you'd like, but you got to build a foundation too. But talk about what you know, what you like about Ryan Walters, and also some of the challenges that you always have when you're trying to build a program.
Well, it's one thing to build a program with 13 to 16 guys, and it's another to build with
tough.
60. When you take over a program and you lose key guys, especially in the day that we're in with the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, I think they both go hand in hand. So now you're taking over a program. I think Ryan's a phenomenal man. He's a phenomenal leader. I think Purdue's a great university, so they'll give him the time he needs to be successful. Because you're talking about a football program, and I think those guys will be just fine. He works extremely hard. I think he has a great staff, chemistry, dynamic. One of his other staff members, Rick Haley, is a really good friend of mine. So I think he has the great nucleus of people around. I just think we as Boilermakers have to continue to support and do what we need to do. Because one thing I've always said, if we're a Boilermaker family, and we're all a family, and there's hundreds of thousands of us, let's be critical in our homes and texting amongst each other. We don't need it on social media. We don't need it on radios, because now we have to state facts when you see in the game. So if you commentate in the game, you have to state facts. Your radio, you have to see what you say, what you saw. But we have to be better as Boilermakers, because we're an institution that prides ourselves, yes, on winning, but also the camaraderie, the fellowship, the togetherness, but also the academics. We're at a high standard, and we have to take pride in that. So now, give him time to do what he needs to do. Let's have a tremendous amount of support for him in this program, because what happens is we have to make those players feel good. Because to me, it seems like they're putting forth an effort. Now, if you don't see effort, that's one thing. But if they're putting forth an effort, he'll add pieces, it'll continue to grow. You have to give time, because you're talking about, let's go back. In Matt Payne, we took over at Purdue, he had to build a program. First season might have been 9 wins.
9 wins, that's it.
Well, now you're sitting here talking about, I think it's his year 19 or 20, he's a Hall of Famer and he's just getting started. So again, allow the man to do his job. Let's all be on board so he can be successful. I think that is very important. Everybody has to be on board. I think that's what makes us great. That's why we got that train, all aboard. Let's jump on the train.
He impressed me a great deal this week in his press conference, just because he keeps upbeat and yet doesn't overtalk. That's one thing I like about him. He's not an overtalker, and he's a guy that you still have a sense of optimism. He knows that they're 2-7, and he knows that he needs to win some games, or would like to do that, but he also knows he's building. Talk about what you know about that personality. He seems to be an optimistic guy that doesn't throw it out there like, doesn't tell you necessarily he's optimistic, but he seems to carry that with him. Is that a fair assessment from your standpoint?
Without a doubt, because what you have to understand about him, he's setting a standard right now. In those locker rooms, that weight room, all the training room, he's setting a standard in the classroom. He said it. Now those players have to maintain it and they have to uphold it. I think that is very important, because, you know, as a coach, you do your job. You prepare them, you get in whatever time you need to get in, you stay late, you work extra, all those things. You prepare to win football game, but they're preparing to win the game. So now the players have to continue to do their part. And one thing about it is, in his first year, he understands, whether you say it or not, you might be better talent-wise right now, but we're on par with what we're doing. See, the structure and the foundation, he's showing the structure and the foundation of what they're doing. So you see that. Now we plug other pieces, and not to take anything away from the current players. So right now we might not have enough, but the foundation is being built. And I think that's very important for our fan base to understand.
Yeah, well said. All right, you've lived an interesting life already, and again, through ups and downs. Still, my favorite cover of Gold and Black was you sitting on the court. I think it was at Lafayette Central Catholic. You were doing doing a clinic and had dealt with cancer, and it was never give up. And of course, the Jim Valvano saying, being a cancer survivor and sending that message to others, there's nothing easy about it. No one walks in your shoes about what you had to deal with that standpoint. But what now, looking back at that in almost 25 years later, what impact, I know it's had an impact, but what impact does that have on you daily?
Well, in a lot of my readings, scripture that says storms come to wake you up, shake you up, and in some cases break you up.
Yeah.
So being diagnosed with cancer at 26 years old.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Oh man, just even think about it. I didn't probably start using the word until about 5 or 6 years ago. The word cancer, it was always hard to say it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a small story on that, but even in dealing with cancer, when they were trying to find out what type it was hard for me to call my mom to tell her I had cancer. That was probably the hardest thing to do, because for some strange reason, it felt like I was letting her down.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife, Roberta, was like, "You need to call your mom." She said, "If you don't call, I will." And I called her. And even with Coach Katie and the staff, they didn't find out until through the grapevine it started to trickle out, because there was a nurse at the hospital. She went home and she told either father or grandfather, just kind of said the name. And obviously you recognize the name in the state of Indiana. And then it just kind of went from there. And then Coach called me and was like, "Zoe," because I was playing in Italy. So they just assumed I was still in Italy. Yeah. Because when Roberta and I came home, we didn't tell anybody, just because we just felt like it was a fight of our own. And I've never been one to try to feel like I'm making excuses, which sounds crazy to this day. And it just kind of went from there. But really, I don't think going through cancer made me a better person. I think it made me appreciate life a little bit better, to understand. Like, for example, when I go outside, I'm surrounded by 3 lakes. I take my time, I look at the trees. I can actually hear the squirrels. I see other dogs. My dog play with other dogs. I give that time. I look in the water, put my feet in the water, I walk around. I got sand on my feet. I see the trees, the birds, all these small things that we take for granted because we're going so fast. And it's like, man, God, I thank you for allowing me to see these things, because again, go back 26 years, he could have said, "It's time for you to come home."
Yeah.
But my prayer was consistent when I was going through it. When I was going through chemotherapy for about 4.5 months, I just simply said to God, just allow me to see my son Joshua turn 18, because he was only 4 months when I was diagnosed, and now he's 26 years old. And because once he turned 18, I just said, okay, life is bonus at this point. I don't want to leave this earth, because again, I have children. I want to see them continue to progress. Roberta and I want to continue to travel the world. We still got 2 other continents we need to hit. And I want to be able to, if God bless or God willing, to have grandkids, experience life, man. I've always mastered or felt greatness in dealing with the small things. I don't need big things to make me happy.
Yeah.
If my kids are happy, I'm happy. And I'll give you a small example, a shout out to Bobby Riddell. Bobby, I call him Bobby Barker because people know one of my favorite guys. But I was when Purdue played out in the PK 85 last year, I was on the elevator with his dad. And we were just talking about different things, our families and all of that. And he said something that was so profound to me. And he said, "Coach, as a parent, you're only as happy as your saddest child."
Yeah, that's true.
And it took me, when I got out the elevator, it took me about 30, 40 minutes. My mind ain't working as fast, but it took me about 30, 40 seconds to process that. And I said, wow, he's absolutely right. So no matter how old your children get, you still feel the way you feel about it. Because even when I see Chase out there, I see Joshua at 26, Chase will be 22 in 2 weeks, and Addison 16. I still see them as those babies. And I respect them as they grow, but I still see them when I had them in my hands. And that'll never change.
Yeah, great. That's such great advice and a story that is important. Now, you have been also gracious. You and Roberta both have been gracious with Purdue. Now the Purdue Cancer Institute for Research, but all that you've done back in your days when you were an assistant before you took off from Missouri State. We still have the Cuonzo Martin Award, by the way, as I think you know. But that's important for research at Purdue, and I always want to put a plug in for the Purdue Cancer Institute because it's doing great things. But that, and there is a good thing to have a good spouse, though, is it not? Roberta has been such a rock for you, and talk about that and the fact that it takes two to make this work, doesn't it? When you have that type of family relationship.
Yes, a phenomenal human, and she's obviously a Purdue graduate out of School of Cranner. Big heart. You know, it's amazing. We met our sophomore year in college, but I've learned a lot from her. I mean, just the simple things, and I'm not sure a lot of youth are writing checks nowadays, but teaching me how to write a check. She had a stick, so helped me learn how to drive a stick shift. And you're talking about work ethic. She would intern in the summer, and she would, come see me on weekends. And she was consistent in that, and just the teaching, the subtle things for me, taking pride in the classroom, because oftentimes, truth be told, I went to class because I had to, and I knew, how to play and all that. And I wasn't a poor student, but it wasn't the top of my priority.
Sure.
And I wasn't the guy that missed class. I want to be clear there. But just the consistent dialogue, and you need to become the best version of yourself in the classroom, because this will pay off. And the same stuff she's always told our children, man. And so it helped me continue to grow. And as you get older, you value those things. But when you're chasing dreams as a young guy, you don't realize you're just chasing, you're running and running and running. Because again, all I was trying to do, even when I met her, was trying to find a way to make my mom's life better. Yeah. Roberta did a great job helping and being consistent, and she's been a phenomenal person in my life. And I don't desire to live life without her.
Yeah, he certainly has. All right. The message to your family, but also to yourself about your experience as a head coach. You've obviously had success. You had, and it had 3 stops. With Missouri State, Tennessee, and at Cal, and now out of coaching. But what's been your message to them in terms of, the ups and the downs, things that didn't worked out better than you thought, and things that didn't? What's your message not only to your family, but also maybe to yourself, and also, in it all counts, what that experience has meant to you so far? And my guess is you're not 100% done coaching, though I will ask you that as well. But talk about that.
Well, the one thing I know in my time out, in my last day at Mizzou, I think that was March 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, but God would never penalize you for prioritizing you. And I think that has been my biggest struggle, because I prioritize student athletes and players that I coach over anything. Not my family, of course, that's different,
sure.
But just all I cared about was them being successful, operating in integrity, making sure you're doing the right things. It's great for me to sit where I sit, because you have time to reflect. And in my last stop, what I always took pride in as a coach, I would love to have that kid that some people say, no, I don't want to take him. But I saw something in his soul similar to me, maybe a little rough around the edges, humble beginnings, but he was hungry to be successful in life. I felt like I owed it to that young man to be successful in life. If he was willing to work, I can help him get where he was trying to go. I think at my last stop, I think that the youth changed, not the talent, but the mentality changed from the standpoint. I had to dig deeper to find, even in recruiting, to find that kid that was really hungry to be successful. There are a lot of people with talent. I'm not sure there are many nowadays that's hungry to be successful. Because for me, I was going to die trying. Yeah. It just, you could have more talent, but I was not going to let you outwork me. I was not going to let you out-tough me, because those two I can control. Now, I'm not a tough guy off the course. I want to be clear there. but when we in our element,
you're a tough guy on the court. Yeah, yeah.
I just because I felt like I can control those two things. Whatever your gifts are, God bless you with those gifts. That's none of my business. But I can control what He gave me. And so for me to sit back, it's been, and I've had tears of joy since I've been out, because it's been you're talking about a peace of mind. Because Alan, it felt like, again, since I was 18 years old when I left East St. Louis, it felt like I had track shoes on and boxing gloves. I just been going.
Yeah.
punching and swinging and running and trying to fight for just chasing something. And then, the truth of the matter is, as a black man, that whatever the stereotypes are you smart enough? Are you lazy? Are you work hard? So now all of a sudden you're about to put yourself in a casket for overdoing it. And all of a sudden I got that tattoo. So people might think these are tattoos, but they bags under my eyes just for going and going and going. And you're sleeping, you go to bed at night, you're up at 4:30 like it's 4:30 a.m. like it's 4:30 p.m. and it's just consistent. Now you're in the office 5:36 and just going and going. And then you realize, what am I doing? So really, God gave me the grace, the peace, the space, and the time to say, it's time for you to step back and grab a seat. It's time for you to reflect and enjoy life a little bit. If you want to do it again, you do it again. So again, but where I sit, this is a great space to be here.
Yeah, good for you, my man, because I think the whole thing, and again, sharing that message of, and it isn't, it doesn't work for everybody, but it all counts. And then the podcast really, I just think you're going to make a big difference in a lot of people's lives, and you're going to do it. All right, I got to ask you one question about Purdue's basketball team. Of course, you know basketball like few others, and you know Matt Painter, and they're in a challenging situation. Maybe not tough is not the right word, because they've got a lot of talent, but and a good culture. But you still got to deal with the fact that expectations. You articulated about the Big Ten, and winning that is nothing to apologize for. But the NCAA tournament is the NCAA tournament, and you know that. So, when you watch this team, they seem to have a little bit of an angry bent to them, which might be good. But what do you see, and what do you think will be that challenge for them this year to maybe to get over the hump in the tournament, but also to be the best versions of themselves?
I think there are a couple of things. The most important thing, now, what I will say, they have all the parts. They have all the parts to be the last team standing. But that's easier said than done. The number one factor, you got to be healthy. So that's one game at a time. You have to be healthy, especially your key guys. You got to be healthy. The other thing is, for all those young guys in that locker room, you either have noise coming through your ears or sweet music. Which one are you listening to? I love sweet music, whether you like jazz, whatever you like. Get that sweet music coming through your ears, get all that noise out of there. And I think a piece for our Purdue fans, as much as you can stay away from negativity, stay away from, because those guys listen to it, they read it, and they hear it. So now, if you want to see your team be the last team standing, stay away from the negativity. If you want to vent at home in your household, that's okay. If you want to phone your girlfriend, you can vent that way. But let's keep it out of these guys' airways, because again, they hear it, they feel it, and then you wonder why you're sitting in the stands like, man, why isn't he playing well? What's wrong with him? Well, he just read 30 different things about why he can't play, why he's in a good place, should be coming off the bench, why his coach Painter still have him on the roster. He just read that. That's why. Now, again, I'm not telling you as a fan not to be angry. That's all a part of you, a true fan. But let's minimize that as best we can. And then the other part is just really, and you know, the old cliche as coaches say, is one game at a time. That's all it is. Because you have to understand, with their coaching, their staff, their team, they have a chance to be the last team standing. But in that, what I'm saying here, they can lose 3 games in a row, still cut the nets down. See, so as fans, no. It's just a game. Because each one they'll learn from, they'll go through, they'll deal with. So they can lose 2 in a row, 3 in a row. It doesn't mean anything. It's like they could still be the last team standing. So I think our fans have to continue to stay the course, continue to support. And when you go on those road games and some seats, go fill those up as well. Let them know how we travel. You have to go take all those seats. Because it resonates. Because again, you have to show the consistent support. Because think about it. Think of if you're a parent, your kid make a mistake, you stop parenting, you stop loving them? No, we address the situation. I continue to love you. We keep moving forward. That's what family does.
All right. There is a message of love and redemption in everything that Cuonzo Martin does. I highly recommend that you check out It All Counts on you got a YouTube channel, but also I assume it's on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure, if you want a voice of somebody that's going to give you hope in this at times godforsaken world, listen to Cuonzo Martin, because that's what he's doing, and that means a lot to us here at Gold and Black as well. All right, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Chris Pelliot will join us. We'll talk about Cuonzo talked about atmosphere at Mackey Arena. This is the guy that has a lot to do with that, and we'll look forward to that. Be back in 2 minutes on Gold and Black Live.